Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. A very heartfelt thanks with our gratitude to His Holiness Keshavardi Maharaj and Asik Krishna Maharaj, who reconstructed this fortress. We call it a fortress, actually. Some people call it a palace, but although it was the property of a king, so rightly it could be called a palace, but actually they built it as a fortress. It's not overly opulent, but it's just comfortable enough so that people can come from the West and stay here without freaking out. And at the same time, this place provides a sanctuary, a place of protection, a fortress, so that devotees can come here and spend time to hear and chant and go deeply within the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam and other books and chanting Hare Krishna without any other concern. It's built to do that. That is their mission statement here. So our special thanks to Keshavardi Maharaj and to Asik Krishna Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj, and those who worked as a team to bring this together. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. And my humble obeisances to all the devotees who are present here today. You're all Vaishnavas and therefore are the most worshipable in the universe. Hare Krishna. The story of the lifting of Govardhan Hill begins just after Krishna has exalted the wives of the Brahmins. He had very specifically drawn out their spontaneous devotion to show the rest of the world, and very particularly their husbands, who had become addicted to ritualistic practices, that spontaneous devotional service is what pleases Krishna the most. In fact, the Srimad Bhagavatam says that the pastime of Govardhan Hill begins after Krishna had performed his pastime of meeting the wives of the Brahmins. In the same village, he had stayed overnight to appease the wives and also to give more association to their husbands and everyone in that village. It just so happened that in that same area, Nanda Maharaj and the rest of the cowherd men were setting up another elaborate sacrifice. And Krishna, as a little boy, came to Nanda Maharaj and inquired from him, "What's this all about? Why are you performing this yajna? Is it something that is done by cultural momentum? Or is there a reason behind it?" And Nanda Maharaj explained to his son, albeit a little hesitatingly, because he was remembering the words at Krishna's name-giving ceremony, that this son of yours is exactly like Narayan. And he had already seen Krishna kill many powerful demons. And so he was wondering, as he was instructing his son, who he was actually instructing and telling about this sacrifice. But he explained to him the need to worship Indra because, of course, as Vaishyas, all the opulence of the residents of Vrindavan, the cowherd people, came from the animals. And the animals thrived because the grains were in abundance. And the reason the grains were in abundance because there's plenty of fresh water coming from Indra. And therefore, Nanda Maharaj said to his little son, this is something we do because when Indra is pleased, the rains come, and the grains thrive, the cows become healthy, and we all become happy when the animals are happy, and we become opulent. But Krishna said, you don't really need to do this. Because, he explained, everything's going on by karma. And there's no necessity for the demigods because really they have nothing to do with karma anyway. Indra cannot control karma. It's a force unto itself. And what will come will come. All you have to do is do your work properly. And for that matter, if you're going to perform a worship, you should worship work itself. And you should worship the source of your abundance in life, which would be Govardhan Hill, which provides sufficient grains, water, all kinds of fruits and flowers. And the cows. Forget Indra. Now, Krishna had a plan behind this because he had perceived within Indra's heart, as he is omniscient, that is, Krishna is omniscient, his servitors sometimes become overly enamored of their own power. And I was thinking how this is possible amongst those who see Krishna all the time. After all, Indra, Brahma, who made a similar mistake, and other such controllers, how could they become puffed up and think that I'm better than Krishna? And then I remembered something that Prabhupada once said. He said, a little Sanskrit learning is dangerous. And I recalled this phenomena I've seen in ISKCON and that Prabhupada noted. Sometimes devotees will learn Sanskrit a little bit, because learning a lot of Sanskrit is not something I see many people do. It means going in seclusion practically for the rest of your life. And even then, how could one match up to the greats, the great masters like Jiva Goswami and others? Nonetheless, a primer, a little copying the letters, recognizing a few vowel changes, then all of a sudden, Prabhupada didn't do this right. Or I know more than everyone else. It's so prevalent, this feeling of pride. It can come out at any minute. It's simply waiting like a little emperor to pop its head out and say, I'm the king of everything. So these big controllers apparently have a harder time of this because they do have so much power vested in them by Krishna that imagine being able to control forces of nature, having a credit card that has $1 trillion on it. You might then develop a little swagger and think, well, you know, what do I need God for? So Indra had developed this, and Krishna, being the consummate manager, notes this in his servitors, especially those who are in key positions. As a general observation, the entire purpose of the creation, that is, of the material world, is to help refine the hearts of the living entities who are here, so that they can eventually overcome the propensity for pride and wholeheartedly surrender to Krishna. To become simple and just say, okay, there is a God and I'm not him. And then to understand that Krishna is the most qualified, and I'm going to talk about why Krishna is the most qualified master, and why the most intelligent choice that anyone could possibly make, as is repeated throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, is to surrender to Krishna. And this pastime, perhaps more brilliantly than any other, gives us every reason to surrender to Krishna. So this was Lord Krishna's idea, that I will curb the pride of Indra. And it's fascinating, Srila Prabhupada points out, to hear philosophy from the mouth of a little child. When a child starts speaking philosophically, everyone stops and listens. So this is one of the very charming parts of this pastime. We heard about it recently when Yamaraj became a little boy and came to the assembly of the wives of Suyagya, who had died on the battlefield, and he began speaking philosophy. So here's Krishna himself, so beautiful, simply dressed like a village boy. And now he begins telling all about the intricacies of karma. And Nanda Maharaj and all the coward men are leaning in to hear what Indra later on says as coming from an over-talkative child, overly talkative child. But Krishna seemingly was relishing this because he knew exactly how to irritate Indra, which he wanted to do, to bring everything to a conclusion. So he told the cowherd man and Nanda Maharaj enough so they were convinced that instead of performing this sacrifice for Indra, let's use the very paraphernalia that we were going to use for Indra to worship Govardhan Hill, the cows. Now, again, it's important in these leelas to put oneself in this position to see how would it affect me. And I've seen before someone's lined up to give a class, and then the temple commander comes in and goes, "Oh, your class was canceled." Who canceled my class? Who else is giving class? Who do they think they are? Immediately, this can come out. So Indra's puja canceled. Simple as that. What do you mean canceled? We can imagine the effect on someone as powerful as Indra. your yajna has been canceled. Why was it canceled? Well, this 5-year-old boy came and he huddled together all the cowherd men and Nanda Maharaj, and he convinced them that you're not so important, but the hill, that's important. The cows, they're important, but Indra, not so much. Krishna advised, bring together everyone from the village. Bring the Vedic Brahmanas. It should be done properly. They will pronounce the mantras properly. They will light the fires. Then we'll feed everybody. Feed everybody in the village. Even feed the lower living entities. The dogs should eat. Everybody should be seen having some prasadam on this day. And then go and make offerings to Govardhan Hill. Then get dressed up in your best cloth, best ornaments, and everyone circumambulate Govardhan Hill. We stay here. This is my 17th year staying here with His Holiness Keshav Bharti Maharaj and other exalted devotees during the Kartik season. This year, one of my favorite vantage points has been this driveway over here, because most of the time we're in this room over here reading Bhagavatam. It's our vow for the season. But when I take a break and I come over here on the driveway, I have a little window, which is the gate, and I can see all the pilgrims walking by. And it reminds me of this pastime. It is this pastime, everyone walking around. It's such a simple activity, just walking and walking. And I was thinking the other day, what's the difference between the walking here and the walking in New York City? I was in New York City before this, and then Tokyo, And people are definitely walking around. In fact, it's hard to stop them from walking. Because, excuse me, could I talk to you for a second? Nope, I got to walk. I'm walking here. So they walk and they walk. And where are they going? And no one really knows. Oftentimes at a traffic light, pedestrians stop. It says don't go, so they stop. They'll listen for a minute. And when it turns green, they say, I have to go. I say, you don't want to hear the highest philosophy in the world? I don't actually say that, but that's what I'm thinking. How about taking 30 seconds to hear the highest philosophy in the world? And it's like, no, I have to go. Why? Because the light changed. It's now green. I have to go. This is the control of the modes of material nature, and everybody's running like that. I have to walk. They're forced to. But here, this pastime of Govardhan Hill, where Krishna gave this simple instruction, just walk around the hill and think of the worship of this hill. And now when you look out and you see people walking, you feel something different from the walking. In New York or Tokyo, you feel, oh God, I should go somewhere too. I need to do something else to be happy. But here, they're walking in a circle. There's nowhere really to go. You end up in the same place that you started. The whole intention behind it is padasevanam. You're walking and thinking, this is service to Krishna. And Krishna likes these simple acts of devotion. They're so sweet. Another note. Walked around Govardhan Hill many, many times. And in all those years walking around, I've seen many people walking and also many people doing Dandavat Parikrama. I've even seen families coming here. And I imagine in my mind what the scenario is. Come on, kids. We're going on vacation. Where are we going? We're going to do Dandavat Parikrama around Govardhan Hill. And we see this. Mother, father, 3 children. How stoic they look. But I can tell you one thing. I've never, ever seen anybody unhappy, lying face down in the dust, going around Govardhan. They look up from there as you go by, and they smile, and they have this determined look on their face. So when Krishna gives some kind of a yajna, this is meant for the edification of the soul. And this, he told the residents of Vrindavan, this will make everybody happy. He said, this will make me happy. And so they all went around Govardhan. They fed Govardhan. And then Govardhan assumed this gigantic form and began demanding more and more. Feed me more. Anior. This is the section of Govardhan just a little further from here. And Krishna was kind of intimidating the cowherd people. He was saying that you have to feed him. And he assumed this gigantic form, and the more they gave him, the more he ate. So they were running to get more and more boga to give to him. And he would just swallow it with his big mouth. And he also told them, anybody who doesn't feed Govardhan, the hill will manifest as snakes, and it'll come and kill you. So Krishna, these simple, apparently simple, they're the most elevated living entities anywhere, who have accumulated heaps of bhakti sukriti, or playing with Krishna like this. But Krishna enjoys these simple pastimes. So, after the celebration was over, Indra was infuriated. And now he ordered his clouds. He has personified clouds. Samvartaka. He said, go to Vrindavan, inundate the place, destroy all the animals. This is the effect of anger caused by pride. One loses one's intelligence. So Indra lost his intelligence. He ordered Samvartaka, who was thinking this is not a good idea. But what can be done when you're the servant? You have to do it anyway, even if you're thinking, my master's gone crazy. Prabhupada mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. The folly of the Sudra is that even if you have a master who goes off, you still have to do what he says. It's the problem. So Samvartaka came and began sending down pillars of water on Govardhan and to all the villages nearby. The villagers then do what they always do, and they came and they prayed to Krishna, please save us. Krishna was waiting for this moment, and our acharyas tell us that this is the way, again and again, he intensifies the devotion of his devotees. He creates situations in which their natural propensity to take complete shelter of him comes out. And in this case, they all came to him, as did the cows. And Krishna said, don't worry. And he went to this Govardhan hill, and with one hand, he picked up the whole mountain and put it aloft with his little finger on his left hand. One hand. Then he invited everyone, come under the hill. As they did, they noticed that it was dry, and it was actually very nice. There are descriptions in the Shastra that describe how everything was accounted for. Everyone was accounted for, and all amenities were provided, so that there was no discomfort whatsoever. And this is really indicative of the life of full surrender to Krishna. In the Gita, Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana pariyupasate tesham nityabdi yogdanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. If you invest your consciousness in me without any other consideration, I will personally take care of you. This is a good idea, actually, because when I try to take care of myself, I always mess it up. I do something wrong. I can't see everything. I don't even know what's good for me. But Krishna knows what's best. In fact, in his prayer, Prithu Maharaj said to the Lord, I'm offering this prayer as a son would to the father knowing what's good for the son. And I'm saying to you, my Lord, that I have no idea what's good for me. So you please decide, and whatever you decide, I'll accept that. This is the mood of the pure devotees. Ananyas chintayantamam. And when the devotees were under the hill with Krishna, completely provided for, outside the rains were pounding Govardhan Hill, thunder was coming down, but we also hear from the acharyas that not a drop of water touched anyone. In fact, it all evaporated before it hit the ground. Krishna arranged outside that although Govardhan was being pelted with thunderbolts, he felt it to be pleasant on his back. He didn't notice it. Krishna provides for everyone. And meanwhile, under the hill, Krishna was fulfilling the desires of all his devotees. And that is just to be with Krishna. There's no place else they'd rather be. But in the daily activities in Vraj, we know that Krishna goes away to the forest, and the devotees become practically catatonic when Krishna's away. If Krishna passes behind a tree and his friends can't see him for half a moment, they become greatly perturbed. What to speak of all the residents of Vrindavan that during the day Krishna's away and they can't see him. We know from the Bhagavatam.SB when Gopal Kumar goes back to Goloka and Krishna's already away in the forest, many of them can't even speak. He inquires, does Gopal Kumar, when he comes into Goloka, where is the son of Nanda Maharaj? Where is his home? And they look at him and do not respond. And he thinks, are these people rude? Did I say the wrong thing? Finally, he finds his way to the village of Nanda Maharaj, and he finds that everyone's waiting for Krishna in the forest. So when he comes, they rejoice. In fact, there's some poems listed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the dark cloud that comes when Krishna comes back into the village. Is a cause for rejoicing. Normally when you see a black cloud, you think, oh, this is dangerous. But the black cloud caused by the dust raised by the hooves of the calves, when Krishna's returning to the village, awakens the joy of the devotees in Vrindavan. They begin to celebrate when they see him. So when Krishna is beneath Govardhan Hill, everyone has full access, 24 hours a day for 7 days. And this is such a beautiful phenomena to observe. When Krishna's devotees simply sit there and see him. And I see this in many temples around the world. I especially noted the last time I was in Chicago, in Shri Shri Kishore Kishori, after the morning program's over. And they put that gate down, which is a prerequisite in deity worship. You have to protect the deities. And everybody goes, all the temple devotees go about their daily duties. And then there are people that are on their way to work. And they come into the temple room. And they just sit down. And they just look at the deities. They don't even move. They just sit there like this. And I was watching them, and I was thinking, these blessed souls, they come and they sit down and they just look at Krishna. Krishna's the one person that I can think of that doesn't mind someone just sitting there and staring. In fact, he presents himself like that. And in a similar way here at Govardhan, for all the people in Vraj, he made himself available, fully visible, statuesque, holding up the hill with one finger. In and of itself, what a thing to observe. Little boy holding the mountain up. And there in all his beauty, everyone can look at him from every side, can walk around, observe him. And not only that, we know that he spoke to everybody. There were all the relationships, as Keshav Bharti Maharaj brings out so frequently, when he's talking about the pastime of Govardhan, is that every one of the rasas was enacted there under Govardhan Hill simultaneously with all the devotees. It's Krishna's expertise. So it's a very, very special place and pastime. 7 days later, Krishna invited everyone to go out from underneath the hill, and he put it down exactly the way it was before. We read some commentary that said that he put it down and then he exited through a cave and came back out. And there he was, the hometown hero again. Saved everybody, lifted a mountain, and everyone began to glorify him, and the demigods were showering flowers. Meanwhile, Indra was thinking about what had just happened, which often happens when one becomes angry and acts out, and then later on thinks, there's an inordinate result coming from my misbehavior. So Indra was thinking like that also. And he made preparations to come and make an apology to Krishna, which included, first of all, getting some advice. Do you know who he went to talk to? He brought Sarabhi with him, but who did he talk to first before he came? Brahma. We find Brahma is actually many times in many of these pastimes throughout the Bhagavatam, the adult in the room who comes at the last minute and says, wait, hold it, everybody. For instance, in the pastime of Prithu Maharaj, when Indra stole his horse for the 100th horse sacrifice, several times, in a very devious way, dressed like a sannyasi and stole the horse several times, until it came to the point where Prithu said, I'll kill him. And then the priest said, no, you can't kill him. This is a sacrifice. We'll kill him. And they were about to perform the oblation that would suck Indra into the fire. And then Brahma came, said, hey, wait a minute, Indra's a devotee, you can't kill him. And he brokered a mutual understanding between them. They actually became friends again and embraced one another, did Indra and Prithu. So Brahma comes many times. So he gave advice to Indra, and in this case, he said, when I offended Krishna, I was basically just kind of experimenting or joking around. I don't know what you did. It was much more serious. I mean, what were you thinking? In Brahma's case, Krishna really didn't say anything. So he said, you better take Surabhi with you. It was his advice. This is always good advice. When you've committed an offense, first get good advice about how to rectify the situation. And then bring somebody with you that the person you offended really likes and appreciates. This is an example that we can all follow. So Indra did come, and this is what I want to bring our attention to. This verse from Indra and Surabhi offer prayers. It's the second verse, and it goes like this. Vivikta upasangam ya vridita kritahilanaha prasparsha padayorenam kiritinarka varchasa. I'll say the word for word, and if you'd like, you can repeat. Would you like to try? Yes. Vivikte, in a solitary place. Upasangamya, approaching. Vriditaha, ashamed. Kritahelanaha, having committed offense. Pasparsha, he touched. Padayoho, upon his feet. Enam, him. Kiritena, with his helmet. Arka, like the sun. Varchasa, the effulgence of which. Translation. Indra was very ashamed of having offended the Lord. Approaching him in a solitary place, Indra fell down and lay his helmet, whose effulgence was as brilliant as the sun, upon the Lord's lotus feet. Here's the purport. The specific solitary place where Indra approached Sri Krishna is mentioned by the sage Sri Vaishampayana in the Hari Vamsha. Quote, he saw him, Krishna, sitting at the base of Govardhan hill. From the commentaries of the Acharyas, we understand that Lord Krishna wanted to provide a solitary meeting for Indra so that he would not be further humiliated. Should I read that again? Two people want that. Everybody else cover your ears. From the commentaries of the Acharyas, we understand that Lord Krishna wanted to provide a solitary meeting for Indra so that he would not be further humiliated. Indra came to surrender and beg forgiveness, and the Lord allowed him to do so privately. So I just want to make a brief examination of the ways in which Krishna is the most qualified master, because every living entity is looking for a qualified master. In democracies, we come from a so-called democracy in America, sorry for the commentary, in which people vote for whom they like, and there's a way in which that people become really overly excited about choosing their particular candidate and they become absorbed in it. I would argue that this is universal because it's natural for living entities to not only want, but to need to take shelter of a great personality. So the problem is, especially in Kali Yuga, there's not many great personalities of whom to take shelter. However, Krishna is always available. And that's why in the Bhagavad Gita he says, Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masuja. If all else fails, all the other masters you've tried to submit yourself to don't work out for you, and they won't, unless they're my representatives, then come and surrender to me, and that will solve the problem once and for all, right? Correct? Say yes. Thank you. So now, what qualifies Krishna as such a master? He's the most beautiful. He's the most powerful. He's the most learned. Is that famous? Is that good enough unto itself? Are those together enough as a worthy master to surrender to? Madhva is saying yes. I disagree. I would say that if I surrendered to somebody who knew everything, who also was the most beautiful and was all powerful, but they weren't all merciful and forgiving, I might be in big trouble. In fact, we've seen it in history. Sigmund Freud was appalled at the depths to which the human spirit could sink in contact with this material world. Of course, I don't know if he knew about material and spiritual, but he said there is an unlimited capacity for depravity within every human being. And we've seen this, those who are corrupted by power. In fact, there's Michael's iron laws of oligarchy, which say that as soon as a normal human being gets into power, he or she spends all of his or her resources trying to stay in power. No longer trying to do his or her duty, but now just trying to stay in power. This is a problem everywhere in the material world. When people become beautiful, what to speak of unlimitedly, when they become learned, it's very easy to want to crush others with your learning and so forth. So we need somebody that is not only the most beautiful, because we really do have to have an object to look at who's unlimitedly beautiful. We keep looking everywhere, don't we? Yes. Please say yes. I thought it was just me. Everywhere I look. In fact, in our hometown, near our hometown in Palo Alto, California, where we do our Harinam, there's a cosmetic shop, and it's called Limitless Beauty. This is an indication what everyone's looking for. And they gave me a little packet of their stuff, which I obviously haven't used yet. But still, this is the quest of everybody in this world. We want beauty. We want to sit with somebody who knows everything. And we want somebody all powerful, but all merciful. So this is Krishna. He's Suridam Sarvabhutanam. Now let's just look for a second at the ways in which Krishna is all merciful. How he's all forgiving. This is one of the opulences of a Brahmin. The best of all opulences is to be forgiving, because it's not so easy to forgive. So some devotees have a very good intention, but their actions are wrong. Will Krishna forgive you if your intention is right, but your actions are wrong? How about if your intention is wrong, but your action is right? Will he forgive you? Ramananda Saka says yes. I'll agree with him. How about if your intention is wrong and your actions are wrong? Will Krishna forgive you? Yes. Unbelievably, yes. But we have to see how. Because a master who has no boundaries is unlimitedly forgiving, doesn't necessarily show the pinnacle of love. For instance, a parent who doesn't show boundaries in taking care of his or her children, then the child might think, like, the person doesn't really care about me. Krishna has the right boundaries for each person to bring them closer in surrendering to him and loving him. So we'll just look at a couple of examples. Ajamil. Ajamil had the wrong intention, but he did the right thing. He said Narayana. Everyone say Narayana. He only was thinking, my son, my son, my son, and it was an illegitimate son. And he was really wrapped up in all the wrong stuff. This is made abundantly clear in the Bhagavatam. But somehow or other, by accident, he did the right thing. He said Narayana. So Krishna said, I'll take it. And the Yamadutas didn't like that. We just read the 6th canto. They came in, they said, you can't do this. Your intention and action have to be right. And the Vishnu Dutas said, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Krishna decides. And if he decides the action was okay, intention wrong, he can still take it if he wants to. It's up to him. And then you have people who have the right intention, devotees, right intention, but their action is wrong. So there are many examples of this. One that I particularly like is in Jagannath Puri, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would stand at the back of the temple and observe Lord Jagannath. He was right next to the Garuda Stamba. One day when it was very crowded, and it practically never gets crowded here in India in temples, right? Everyone was clamoring to see the deity. And as Mahaprabhu was observing, a woman, in her enthusiasm, climbed up, half on the Garuda Stamba and half on the shoulders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to get a better look at the deity. Have you ever had this happen? Yes? If you've been to the Krishna Balaram Mandir recently, maybe yes. Govinda, the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saw this. Get down! What are you doing? Crazy woman. Mahaprabhu broke his trance from seeing the deity and looked at both. He chastised Govinda. Said, you uncultured person. I wish I had her same enthusiasm. You can't stand on the Lord's shoulders. But the intention was right, and therefore he accepted it. Similarly with Govinda, when later in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he steps over the transcendental body of the Lord to do the massage. But then he won't step back the other way. He made some offense. That's seva aparad. But the intention was right, so Krishna forgives it. So we can see many examples of those who have right intention, wrong action, forgiven. Even you have the wrong intention, right action. Am I getting the combinations right? Or did I do the same thing? We see, I have to mention Putana, because this will help bring to focus what the Bhagavatam is saying. Our master is Krishna. So Putana, completely wrong intention. And we might argue, from an external point of view, that the action was wrong too. I mean, her intention was to kill Krishna. That's wrong. But externally, she came as the mother of Krishna. That's how she got in. And somehow or other, Krishna said, okay, intention was wrong. She was trying to kill me. But, you know, she dressed like my mother. I'll take it. Everybody looks at that. Uddhava says, Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam chikamsaya payad apyasadvi. That she came with completely wrong intention. But Krishna accepted what the external manifestation was, that she appeared as a mother. Kamvadayulum sharanam brajema. And then he asked the question, who would surrender to anybody else but Krishna. Now we come to Indra. Indra had wrong intention because of anger and completely wrong action. How did Krishna forgive him? Indra had some remorse in his heart. And Krishna is attracted to this. First of all, he loves devotees. And if somebody makes a mistake in the ordinary course of their practice of devotional service, the Shastra, 11th canto, says, Sapada mulam bachata priyasya taktanya bhavasya hare priyeshaha vikarma yachchot patitam katanchid tunoti sarvam hridisandhi vishta. If you're sincerely trying to do devotional service and you do make a mistake, vikarma, you fall down from your position and do something wrong, Krishna knows your heart. He sees that you're sincere, and therefore the admonition is that you should simply go on practicing devotional service, and Krishna will eradicate it from within your heart. He forgives you if you're sincere and you don't try to take advantage of his mercy. So in this case, we find that Indra became remorseful, and how gentle Krishna is with him, that he arranges for Indra to meet him in a solitary place, Vivikta, just so that Indra doesn't become more humiliated. And furthermore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I looked at his commentary, he goes a little further, and he says that Krishna looked at Indra when he met him in this solitary place, and his facial expression was saying, I'm sorry if I caused you any problem or I offended you. This was Krishna's character. So this pastime is an occasion for us to remember that Krishna is not only all-powerful, all beautiful, the most learned, but he's the most merciful and the most gentle. And if anyone sincerely approaches him, even if someone's completely unqualified, starting with the worst background possible, if such a person approaches Krishna with sincere feeling and a little bit of remorse for one's past activities, then Krishna is so kind that he'll make all arrangements for that person to become perfectly adjusted in the practice of devotional service, and Krishna will give his own lotus feet to that person. Now we'll take a few reflections. We have an extra mic that we can pass around and hear from you wherever you may be. And we'd just like to hear from you any of the things that you heard from the verse or the monologue so far that's stuck in your mind that you can reflect back to deepen the conversation. And we guarantee to get the microphone to you within 7 seconds or less, or your money back from today's class. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful understanding of how to drive the Indra out within us. Well, a very important question comes to mind. You are giving us these examples of Ajamila and Putana and all these people. So in our present scenario, how do we understand whether these devotees whom you quoted, whether they were in the sadhana bhakti stage or bhava bhakti stage or prema bhakti stage, and when does Krishna really understand in which level we are, and when does he really come into action? Because the present day activity does not culminate into whether it depends on demigods or depend on the Supreme Personality Godhead with the present professions. It does not really culminate into that. So where do we draw the line, and where do we really understand when Krishna is really acting in our lives, and how do we rectify these situations? That's something which comes to mind. So.
In reading Prabhupada's books recently, I've noted that perhaps the most quoted verse, I don't know statistically, I think Ganapati Maharaj knows. He may know or not know, others may. It's Sarvasya Chaham Radisani Vishto Matak Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. Prabhupada quotes this so many times, practically every purport. And if you look carefully into the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very clearly saying, doesn't matter what level somebody's on, if you're sincere, then he will inform you from within your heart, he'll direct you. For instance, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam danami bhuti yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. In this verse, Krishna is saying, if you're sincerely trying for me, then I will help you from within your heart. And Prabhupada goes on to say in his purport there, that even if somebody is a neophyte, and so much so that they can't take advantage of the help they're getting externally from a spiritual master and so forth, if they sincerely keep trying, Krishna is always there to help from within the heart. So there's never a time at which Krishna is not available. It's not that he waits until someone's at a certain level of advancement in devotional service. And this is brought up by Gajendra in his prayers to Krishna. I mean, Gajendra, after all, was an animal. This is pointed out by Prahlad Maharaj. When he was thinking, am I qualified to make any presentation here? I mean, the demigods, he said, they already did it. They know perfect Sanskrit. They're in the mode of goodness. Who am I? I come from a demoniac family. And then he said, Bhaktya tutosha bhagavan gajayutapaya. He remembered Gajendra and he said, he was an elephant and he was successful. Bhagavan tutosha, he pleased the Lord. And how did he do it? Prahlad Maharaj concluded he was sincere and he just offered prayers. So Prahlad said, I think this is the secret. If I'm sincere, or if anybody's sincere, he said, and simply offers prayers to the Lord will respond. Now Gajendra goes on to say in his prayers, after he propitiates the Lord before he even knew who the Lord was, he was just from this memory he had from a last life, and he knew he was in trouble. He began praying to the Supreme. That was nondescript at that time, who the Supreme was. Then it became more clear as he began to offer his prayers and the Lord appeared. However, when he was offering his prayers, he said that the Lord's never inattentive. He's never lazy. And it's not that when I offer prayers, that's when he wakes up and goes, oh, someone is offering me prayers. He's waiting and watching at every second. When I offer my prayers, I become more qualified to receive his mercy, because Krishna's mercy is always available. It's always in abundance. It's my inability or my lack of capacity to accept it which is the problem. So even a neophyte, even an animal, anyone who suddenly gets capacity to pray to the Lord with sincere feeling by association, by being jolted into action by a severe occurrence in one's life, then the Lord immediately pours in. Not even immediately, that's the wrong term. He's already there. But then the devotee realizes his presence. Tarejati tanaijati tadure tadvantike tarantarasya sarvasya taru sarvasya sibayata. Sri Upanishad says the Lord walks, he does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He's the closest one to us all the time. This is so touching, that he's always there with us, and he's the one who cares. It's hard to find somebody who really cares. Maybe people are busy. You know, you can't blame them. Krishna's not so busy. He doesn't have anything else to do. He only cares for the living entities. And when the living entity becomes qualified to ask for more mercy, then it becomes abundantly clear that the mercy was already there and it comes pouring in. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
I was thinking how Krishna is so merciful, that quality which is very necessary, especially in his desire to eradicate any pride a devotee can have in any way. This is one thing which we know that Krishna doesn't like in devotees, and he does it in different ways, but he's always so careful and considerate. Like in the case of Indra, where I remember Lord Chaitanya with the Digvijay Pandit, he was thinking, how can I crush his pride without humiliating him? So he does it in such a way that it's always perfect. And the last thing you mentioned from the commentary, that his facial expression was so further enhanced the mood of humility in the devotee. And I remember this verse from the 31st chapter in the Gopis' prayers that say, you eradicate devotees' pride by your smile.
You eradicate the devotee's pride by your smile. Why? Haribo. That deserves a Haribo. Come on. Thank you. That was really nice. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, since he brought up the topic of Krishna reciprocating, whether sadhana bhakti or bhava bhakti or prema bhakti, there's something interesting which Prabhupada mentions. He says that a devotee who believes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord is a pure devotee, even though he may be in the neophyte stage. So, by his association, others may also become Vaishnava. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think this is a lecture 1975, Madhya 15106. So, that question often comes up, that does Krishna reciprocate only with the advanced devotees, or? And Prabhupada took this as the definition.
It's actually not a lecture or letter. It's in the purport. It's written in the purport itself, and it's a theme that comes again and again. When one's faith is aligned properly, then that faith can be transferred to others, which becomes evidence that it's there. I always think, when I hear that, of the early days of Krishna consciousness, when devotees were coming to Prabhupada, and he sent them out on impossible missions to various places around the world. And they had few resources, or in some cases no resources. And the only reason they had the wherewithal to accomplish their missions was because they had faith in Prabhupada's words as representative of Krishna. For instance, Sudama and Chintamani, Prabhupada called them into his room in Los Angeles and told them they should go to Japan and preach Krishna consciousness. Sudama was African American. He came from Los Angeles. Chintamani, where's she from? I don't know. America, not Japan, guarantee you. It was a very secluded place at that time in the 70s, Japan. And they said to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, we don't know anything about Japan. What to speak of speaking Japanese and so forth. And Prabhupada said, just like if you live in a house and it begins to burn down and you go to get help but you don't speak the local language, somehow or other you'll get the message across. And when Sudama and Chintamani went to Japan, they're still famous there to this day. The devotees, there's remembrance of their presence there. Sudama learned Japanese very quickly, became a real star there. Devotees were enlivened by their preaching, Chintamani and Sudama, because they had taken up that order with faith. Yes, Prabhu. This is Nanda Sutta for those who can't, Nanda Suno for those of you who can't see him over here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Denver, Colorado.
Hare Krishna.
Leader of the Bhakta program there, if I'm not incorrect.
That's not true. I don't lead the Bhakta program. Hare Krishna. Anyway, Hare Krishna. So, yeah, I really appreciated that point that Krishna, he's willing to forgive us for anything, no matter what. And it reminded me of that class that you gave yesterday, when you were describing how, you know, maybe you were talking about, I don't know if it related to the Alzheimer's clinic, but Krishna, the devotees see, just as in an insane asylum, people think, oh, I'm Napoleon or I'm George Washington or something like that. That they see that, okay, this person thinks that, but I'm not gonna like shake him up. I'm not gonna, and the person who's sane sees that it's just a disease, it's just madness, and they don't take it personally, they don't get out of hand. So I really appreciated that point. That Krishna's
Did that come up today again too for you?
well, because Krishna sees, it made me think, your class made me think that Krishna sees us for what we actually are, which is spirit souls, and anything that we do that's offensive is not so significant, and especially if we're remorseful, he's very pleased by that because we're willing to see that we were offensive.
Yeah, he takes the essence of our intention, and so some of the ideas that I presented, I got from His Grace Radhika Raman Prabhu, the great scholar, pure devotee, and orator, and he talks about recovery of intention. He says bhakti is all about intention, and our process of practice, really, it's meant to recover our pure intention to serve Krishna. And this is mostly what Krishna's noticing. He's noting what is the quality of our intention. And this very famous context of Bali Maharaj, who, although was indisposed at the time, in other words, he wasn't able to fully express his devotion to Vamandev when he came. Vamandev was noted as one of the most beautiful among all the different incarnations of the Lord. He's noted in the top 3 as being so beautiful and charming. He's just a little brahmachari, and he shows up there. It just seems so vulnerable, and charming. And Bali Maharaj, when he saw him, it was spontaneous. He was thinking in his heart, this is where I want to surrender. But he couldn't do anything about it. I mean, that's interesting, because we may be in situations in our life when our intention runs ahead of our capability to enact our intention. And that is that we may be in some kind of social situation, some complexity. There's nobody that comes into this world practically except for Shukadeva Goswami, and he took off fast when he was born, that it doesn't come into the world with some kind of complexity. And so despite the fact that we have complexities in our life that make it a little more difficult for us to enact our surrender externally, internally, when the intention becomes bright, Krishna notices it. Even when it's just barely there, he notices it, and he encourages it. So Bali Maharaj is noted by later on in the pastime. The demigods even want to know, like, how do you get so much mercy? He was a demon. He was occupying heaven and so forth. And they say because Krishna's Bhavagrahi Janardana, and he knew his heart. And therefore, in his heart he wanted to surrender, and Krishna did everything necessary to make him surrender, or to allow him to fully enact his surrender. And he'll do that for anyone who has the intention within their heart to surrender. Even one time, Sakrit Papana, what is it? Yes, this is a statement by Lord Ramachandra when he says that if one time, Sakrit, somebody makes this intention, I'm going to surrender. He said, from that day on, I'm fully active in helping that person to come to the fruition of that intention. So this is very important to cultivate that within the heart. Even I've heard Dhanadhar Maharaj say, when you're chanting your japa, and try to find your sincerity. If you can go on a hunt, somewhere, like diving into the deep ocean, get all the equipment that you need to go deep down to the ocean floor and see, is it down here somewhere? I know I saw it one time. I always like to say, Havi Prabhu, he just came back from the most famous place on earth for buying scented oils. It's no longer Gulab Singh, apparently. Somewhere else. Sorry, Gulab, if you're watching. But where did you go? Anuj? Kanuj. He went to Kanuj, the place on earth where you buy the best scented oil. Is that correct? Otherwise, Havi Prabhu wouldn't have gone there, because he only takes the best of the best from this world. And if you go there to Kanuj, and you go in that shop, and you say, I want one little vial of sincerity, I'll give you $1 trillion. They'll look at you and say, I'm sorry. We can give you anything but. It has to come from deep within the soul. And hearing these pastimes here at Govardhan Hill, and coming, seeing those who are walking around Govardhan Hill so earnestly, so simply, it can spark that within one's heart. This is the greatest wealth in life that comes from this Leela of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, and the devotees spontaneously taking shelter of him, and Krishna protecting them with such panache, lifting a hill with his little finger and just hanging out with him for a whole week. And then the way he treats Indra afterwards, with such deference to his position and understanding what his needs are. Who would surrender to anybody else but Krishna? One can be certain by reading Bhagavad Gita that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead just because of the way he thinks. And then if you go into the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can hear about all the devotees. And every psychology possible known to humankind is expressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam and shown how it connects to, in the end, the solution to every concern that one might have, every anxiety one may have, is cured by the process of surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're all very fortunate to be here on this day, 2018, on the day that Krishna lifted this hill, to feel more than anything else that's this impetus for devotional service that practically comes out from the ground here at Govardhan. If you walk around, I saw you come back from your parikram yesterday. You can tell when someone just came back from parikram. You know, they have dust in their hair, and they look a little bit like, yeah, I just ran a marathon, but I'm happy. But there's something else. There's a glow, and it comes step by step. There's a spiritual electricity that runs around the marg. And with every step, it connects, and it comes up through the feet and enters within the heart of the devotees. And more than anything, they feel it here. They feel that impetus that, let me just surrender to Krishna. So this is what we can do today. And remember how beautiful Krishna is, how much finesse he has, and how merciful he is. And follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas and surrender to Krishna. And then take his mood, take the mood of surrender out and offer it to the people who are walking madly on the streets of Tokyo, New York City, and give them an opportunity to come in contact with something that will first bring them to sanity, and then bring them to the greatest joy of their life, which is Govardhan Hill. Premanande Haribo! Vanchakalpadurvishya Kripasindavevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.